March 25th, public hearing for the City of Tampa's Barrio Latino Commission. Welcome everyone. I'm Rich Simmons, Chair of the Commission. If you are here to present a project, you will have limited time to make your presentation, so we suggest being thorough but concise. When coming to the microphone, you will need to identify yourself and your relationship to the project. The commissioners will not ask any questions during your presentation. Your project should be presented in the following order: site plan, elevations, architectural details, wall sections. Staff presents staff report. We'll then ask for public comment. Please state and spell your name clearly after you're here to speak for or against the project. Your time will be limited to 3 minutes, so take some time now to summarize your comments. Following public comment, the commissioners will be asking questions in the same order as the presentation. Next, the applicant will have 5 minutes for rebuttal. The public hearing will then be closed. After the public hearing is closed, no further testimony can be given. The commissioners will then discuss the case and make their decision based upon Chapter 27 of the City Zoning Code of Ordinances, the design guidelines, the Secretary of Interior standards, Historic Preservation Development Review Committee comments, and the testimony given today at this public hearing. The BLC can only act on items that are within our specific jurisdictional responsibility. Owner agents are independently responsible to obtain any appropriate permits and or approvals. If you haven't already done so, please silence your cell phones. We'll start with the introduction of the other commissioners, starting on my left, please.
Vivian Salaga, Preservation Architect.
Richard Cahill, General Contractor.
Good morning, Chase Corley, Financial Services.
Okay, and from staff today, we have Ron Vila, Alexis Guzman, Heather Bonds, and Dana Crosby Collier from Legal. Okay, we have the minutes from the January 28th. As you remember, we didn't have a meeting in February. In your packet, has everyone had a chance to review? Can we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor of said motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, Mr. Vila.
Good morning, Commissioner. Ron Vila. I'm a planner with Historic Preservation. Under announcements in your packet, we have the Tampa Bricks and Mortar. It's a publication that we try to put out every month to show the progress of preservation. We also have in your packets 2 months of staff reviews. So we have January and February in there as well. At this time, I'd like to go through our segment of preservation in progress. This is a tool that we use to assist the public moving forward about some of the projects that have come in before us for presentation for preservation. Trying to focus it. Give me a minute.
It went, we lost, there we go.
So we're going to focus this morning on Ybor City's Museums State Park and Preservation Park. This is the map to show you exactly the area in question. On the east, you have 19th Street. On the west, you have Angel Oliva Sr. You have 9th Avenue to the south and Palm Avenue to the north. This is the Oliva Tobacco Company, which was here. Now it's a residential. And then what's in red is Preservation Park. That's a current. Looking back on the Sanborn map, you see the density of the historic fabric there. One building jumps out at you. It was a brick building, was the Ferlita Bakery that I'll show you some pictures of now. But you see the stock of the houses, and part of this project to recreate that block face. This is how the park looks today. So once again, the project in question is here. You have the Oliva Cigar Factory that was converted into residential. This house sits on the corner of 9th Avenue and 19th Street. This was relocated. Here's the bakery that I spoke about that showed up in the red brick on the Sanborn map, and then how the structures were placed when they were relocated at the site. This was a renewal project that came forward after the interstate came through. You see the density of the housing stock in the immediate vicinity to the subject site. Some of the positives that came out of it is that the bakery was in ruins for some time, and then there was attention to bring it back to its luster. This was in the early 80s. This is the creation of that area of land. Just as a reference point, you have the tobacco company, the Oliva Tobacco Company here. You have Palm Avenue to the north, 9th Avenue to the south, and once again, Angel Oliva Avenue to the west, and 19th Street to the east. So this is the bakery here. This is a courtyard that they created. The 3 houses that face the south, and then the 2 houses that face the north. This is showing early on pictures of how that southern elevation looked off of 9th Avenue. And then when they relocated from 5th Avenue to 9th Avenue, the creation of all those sister homes coming together. This was to complete the project. These are the houses that face the north. And to show you how they were sensitive. This is a state museum. You could go there, you could take your family there. There's a nominal fee, and you could walk the grounds. And they tried to recreate the interior to mimic what it was in the early 20s. So that's that section that we have today, and we're going to continue on with our public hearing. At this time, we'll have legal address the conflicts of interest and ex parte communication.
Good morning, board members. I'd like to inquire if any member has a conflict of interest with any item on the agenda today. Okay. And has any member engaged in an ex parte communication regarding any item? Okay, thank you.
On our agenda, there's no continuations reflected, so we'll move into the swear-in. Everybody that wishes to testify, please stand up and raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you'll be providing today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated.
So our first case will be addressing BLC 25 000058. This is for the address of 1607 North 22nd Street. Currently, there's a contributing structure there that dates back to 1923. The underlying zoning is YC6. The request this morning is for a certificate of appropriateness for new construction for a rooftop addition. If you look on page 3 of your staff report, we've been working with this building and this site for many years. It dates back to 2009. This first came in for a demolition of this contributing structure, which this board denied it at that time. And then since then, there's been a series of interaction with the city and the Gunsmart family to get this building to where it is today. I'd like to go through a quick photo presentation with you. This is 22nd Street, running north and south. It's a one-way street heading to the north. You have 6th Avenue to the north. You have 5th Avenue to the south. Property in question is here. It's indicated with the shading of the red. This is a current aerial that we have. Once again, 22nd runs north and south. Property in question is highlighted. And a current aerial. So there's a structure here. There's a one-story structure that's contributing. To the south, you have a courtyard, a drop-off area, if you will. And then 22nd, that runs north and south. Once again, you have 5th Avenue to the south and 6th Avenue to the north. I'm going to show you a series of photos that is going to start with the south elevation, and I'm going to walk you around the building. So this is the south elevation. That's that courtyard drop-off area that I spoke about. The original building is here. It was one story. You have some additions that came through a series of reviews by the Barrio Latino Commission. This is 22nd Street. This is the pedestrian access. This is part of their courtyard. And then you see the south elevation and part of the west elevation. which here we took a step back to take a picture in totality for you. We're gonna be focusing on the upper level for the rooftop addition. The rooftop addition will be held to this portion over here, but just so you get a complete understanding of how the podium works on the building and then how it cascades up. Once again, over here is what they're asking for, and the drawings that I reviewed. This is looking from 6th Avenue or the railroad tracks back towards the building. Looking down 22nd Street to the south. Moving around to the rear of the building. And just a quick shot upstairs, how they engage with the public up there. I think this building is very important, and we talked about the history of it as well, so I wanted to share some photos with you. In the early 1900s, it was the Ferlita Macaroni Factory. The interior floor plan, at that time, you had the factory, then you had kind of a meeting room, you had some bedrooms, kitchen, dining room. Adaptive reuse of the building, went to a cigar factory, showing how it thrived in the area and supported families. Then in 2009, it went into ruins. This is the front elevation off of 22nd. As you move around the building, this is the rear. This is the north elevation. And I think the money shot is this one here, showing that the building was compromised. When this was shown to the board, all these pictures were illustrated at that time, and the board still denied the demo at that time. So you can see where we're at today. And just to conclude, this is a current aerial. That courtyard drop-off area is about 22nd, and then here is the restaurant here, and you can see the rooftop here. So these pictures will be here if you need them through the presentation. And at this time, I'll introduce their team to move forward and do the presentation.
Morning, Commissioners. Jeff Shannon, General Counsel for Columbia Restaurant, 2025 East 7th. I'm here just to introduce four concepts, four themes that you'll hear these wonderful people behind me speak to in the next 30 minutes. The first is, of course, the local and the Secretary of the Interior standards are very important, but they also must allow for economic viability. And in fact, Joe latched onto several of the bulletins that explain those standards, particularly on a federal level, and they point specifically to practical functions that may be introduced to provide more occupiable space to make the project more economically viable. That's kind of concept number one. Concept number two is at the Columbia, as you all know, we're well aware of the history of Ybor City and Tampa, and we aim to be the caretakers of that history. Number three, the planned rooftop has some structural changes or challenges that unless we're able to kind of proceed with some of our design, will be very difficult to implement. And again, all these points will be elaborated on in the next 30 minutes. And the last one is that, as I kind of referenced about the standards, there are some economic hardships that have that Casa Santo Stefano, which is the name of the current restaurant in this building, has had because of the inability to consistently utilize its rooftop area. So thanks, and I'll turn it over to Andrea.
Good morning, Andrea Gonsmart, fifth generation caretaker of the Columbia Restaurant. I'm just here speaking on my family's behalf, and we have an investment in Ybor City. We have over 120 years there. My father is so passionate, I'm so passionate. I'm also honored to be becoming the Ybor City Chamber incoming board chair. So this district is what we have. We have the best mind in for it, and we've been so proud to be an anchor to the east part of Ybor City, being the Columbia Restaurant in Casa Santo Stefano, and I know the future for Ybor is going to hopefully extend farther at that. So we hope to promote that by being present, and so we appreciate your consideration today.
Yeah, board, thank you for having us here. Like my cousin just said, and like Jeff said before, I mean, we are stalwarts of the heritage and the history of Ybor City. We want to continue that on the east side. And when we built this restaurant, we had the best intentions, and we continue to have the best intentions. But we need help. We need to be able to take care of the amount of guests that want to be able to have events within our spaces. And when we built our space, we had enough ability within the fire marshal and the capacity of that building. And what we found over the last 4.5 years that we've been open is that there's an appetite for a lot of rooftop opportunities. But because of the nature in which our weather is and those sort of things, we can't guarantee people when they book our rooftop, they're gonna be able to have a space that won't be rained on. So it's been severely impacting our ability to be able to provide our guests and our customers with the right environment and be able to show them, just that side of Ybor City. So I appreciate you listening to us today, and we're looking forward to your decision.
Good morning. My name is Tim Steele. I'm the Facilities and Construction Manager with the Columbia Restaurant Group. Thank you for listening to us today. A little bit of small history on the back since I've been involved. Original cost for the construction that we did to open up Casa Santo Stefano, we invested almost $8 million into that. So we're very serious about putting money in the right spot and making it look well. We've calculated that the new roof structure with the screens is going to cost us probably $250,000 to $300,000 if approved. I want to remind everyone that we originally showed, back when we permitted the Casa Santo Stefano project, to have that whole entire area covered. But it was advised by Mr. Vila that wouldn't work, that we needed to build as we did today. The problem is we're just not making the profits because we can't comfortably plan events, take reservations for future reservations, because we can't figure out where the weather's going to be that particular week, day, or month. Currently, we have zoning allowing 300 patrons to be up on that second floor. That is, we are not increasing density at all with this stuff at all, with this anticipated construction. Right now, we can only sit 50. So we can only sit 50 under a roof, and we're allowed to have 300. And it's really, we are not making the money. We're barely breaking even on the project on this, and we desperately need to be able to make some revenue off of this second floor as better as we are. So meeting with Mr. Vila, he was very concerned about driving north, that we had good presentation on the second floor driving north. So instead of even today talking about covering the south end of the second floor, we're focusing on the north end only, because by the time you get to the railroad tracks, you really can't see our building because people are focused on traffic and so forth and so on around there, especially the railroad tracks. So it's imperative that we have the whole north area covered. That would allow us 110 patrons, or maybe 120, and jumping us from 50 to additional 120 is imperative for us to make the money we need to do. So, and the only other thing I'd like to add is that we're really not, some of the rules and regs that are restricting this, we're not doing this on 7th Avenue. We're doing it on the wrong side of the tracks, of the railroad tracks. We're on the south end there, so I don't think what we were proposing will actually affect visual concepts whatsoever. So it's imperative to conclude, we just need to have this to be able to be profitable, because right now we're not. We've had to close down Goody Goody in Hyde Park because we weren't profitable, and we just don't want to do that to this particular project. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Joe Hafner with Hafner Architects. My associate Grant with Hafner Architects. We're 417 South Hyde Park Avenue. We've got some slides. We're going to go through the first bunch of them pretty quickly because some are duplicates of what Ron already showed you. You need to get off this.
Which, how do you get back onto the,
Dot camera.
yeah,
There we go.
All right. So you've already seen those ones, okay?
Yeah, we were involved back with this project since 2009. We got our arms twisted by Joe Capitano to come in and provide free services and at a lot of our expense to save this building. It was probably within a few weeks of being completely in the tear down or fall down category. The roof had caved in. You can go to that picture. Roof had completely caved in, and the picture Ron showed, we've got one where it's about halfway there at this point. We came in at that point, put in a whole structural frame on the inside of concrete columns and beams to stabilize the exterior walls. The first order of business was to keep them from falling down, and that was, you know, the act of preservation for this building, was retaining those, primarily the 22nd Street and the 6th Avenue facades. The other two had buildings next to them, and they were just painted black and nothing significant on those two walls. So we saved the building back in 2011. Salt Construction went into it, did the construction work, and built a little office on the second floor for themselves. TMD Windows went in on the first floor and, you know, tried to make it work as a window shop, and, you know, eventually it didn't, and the building turned over and was purchased by the 1905 family of restaurants. So we'll keep going through these. The front and back views. And I think if you know, this will pick it up. What you see there today.
I think you have to go to.
Left one, all the way on the top left. Top left, yeah.
Top, on the left?
Top left. Okay, what you see there today is the 6th Avenue and the 22nd Street facade, where it has been completely restored. All the historical elements of the building were saved 100%. The parapet wall at the top has been saved. You know, the building is probably better shape than it ever was in the history of this building, and that's thanks to the Columbia Restaurant Group. We, you know, followed the guidelines. We worked closely with Ron in his office. We've made compromise after compromise on some of the design features. We've tried the awnings for shade and for weather protection. The big awnings you see there, they didn't work. We tried smaller awnings, they didn't work. You know, people just, you know, you're not gonna go there to eat dinner and make a reservation if you get rained on. And if you get rained on, you're not gonna go back, so it's not good for business. I wish we could do more, but we can't. Going back to go to the next folder.
Okay.
And I wanna add some street photos to the, you gotta get off this one.
That's all right.
I think you need to go back here.
No, I've got it.
Ron showed you some street photos. We've got some photographs of coming north on 22nd Street, which is a traffic pattern on 22nd. It's all north. Anybody approaching this building by car is coming up. We started at 4th Avenue to see what you see going towards Santo Stefano. Just keep rolling through these. We're taking a progression of slides. As you move forward, there's 3 buildings between 4th and 5th Avenue. They all are built right up to the street front, the property line. They have roof overhangs that extend over the property line. The one on the corner of 22nd and 5th Avenue has a whole second floor projection and columns that go all the way to this curb. And they, you know, right here, this one, that's on the corner of 5th Avenue and 22nd Street. So the street pattern.
You can see Santo there.
Yeah, you see Santo in the background, but you don't really see the restaurant until you get to or past Fifth Avenue. You can't see it coming up from Adamo Drive until you get that close because of these buildings are in the way. But these buildings also establish the character of the neighborhood. And what's there now is the buildings that have second floors that are built all the way out to the street, all the way out to the property line. There's no setback, as staff has asked us to do, on the second floor building area. It comes right to the property line, so keep going up the street. As you keep going towards the building, you get past Fifth Avenue, you start to see the drop-off garden area that Ron showed you, and then you keep going, go through a little quicker on these. Keep going all the way up to where you get to the railroad tracks. And this view here is from the parking lot that's actually across the street on 22nd Street. And that's a facade that we see now. You see the white umbrellas on the second floor, which are the second generation of umbrellas that have been tried on this project. And you also see a guardrail at the top of the parapet wall, and as you get to the left-hand end, the north end of this building, the columns go up to over 7 foot tall, and the railing goes up that high on the corner. So these posts that you see, and you see some light posts in there, they mirror what we're going to show you in a few minutes of what the structure will look like on the second floor roof that we're going to do. It's also going to be a flat roof, so it won't look any different in reality than what you see on the canopy on the building now, where you just see the black edge metal. You're not going to see any sloped roof to it at all. Keep going. Okay, these are looking south going on 22nd Avenue. Keep going down to these three houses. Okay, there's a corner house with an overhang, the balcony. Actually, Santo Stefano is the one that's saving these three buildings. If it weren't for the benefits they've brought to this end of the street and this neighborhood, these buildings would probably be gone by now. If you look at three of them in a row here, you see how they come forward right to the street. And that sets a neighborhood pattern, which is discussed in the guidelines. Okay, let's go to the next one.
It's guidelines next.
Okay.
You want to go?
Yeah, I'll touch basically on the guidelines. We've got all this stuff loaded and documented into the files, but I'll try to get through here quicker. On the rehabilitation, in Ron's report, staff report, okay, there's 10 elements that's in the national guidelines. And of those 10, we comply with every one of them that's applicable. Going through and reading the last two on them, number 9, new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction will not destroy historic materials, features, spatial relationships that characterize the property. The new work will be differentiated from the old and will be compatible with historic materials, features, size, scale, and proportion, and massing to protect the integrity of the property and its environment. Number 10, new additions and adjacent or related new construction will be undertaken in such a manner that if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the historic property and its environment will be unimpaired. What we're proposing to do for the roof over the north end of the building could be completely removed later if someone wanted to, and you'd see the same facade that I just showed you in the other picture. This project falls under the rehabilitation category of the national standards. It was already preserved way back in 2011, so that part of it's done. It's in the YC6 zoning, which is not the same as 7th Avenue. It's a community commercial zoning, and it constitutes traditional areas of historic value which have already undergone considerable change. The existing building was designed for occupancy load, an assembly load of 550 people. 250 people on the first floor, 300 people on the second floor. The second floor is not getting the use that it was designed for. Our proposal has no increase in building size, no increase in kitchen, restrooms, parking, no drainage increase. There's no changes to the exterior first floor or the historical aspects of the first floor. There's no changes in exit systems. We will have to add sprinklers to the ceiling level of what we're doing, but that's it, along with some lighting. It is not a landmark building. It never has been used to apply for any historic preservation taxes. So the national guidelines technically do not apply if you're not asking for the tax benefits. And going through the BLC guidelines, there's nothing in those about second floor setbacks of buildings, and there's only one reference to them in the national standards, which Jeff already mentioned to you. The second floor, we initially last summer went in with a roof proposal and drawings that showed a roof over the whole second floor area, and we were directed or recommended to, because of the view coming up 22nd Avenue, to cut it back to just the north end of the building. That area there that's still left open represents seating for 70 people. And that's when you figure 70 people, you turn a dinner table twice a night, that's 140 people. It ends up to be a lot of, $14,000, $15,000 more on a daily basis that could be gained. So that has a considerable factor in what's being proposed. Okay, go to the next one. Go to our drawings. D.
Gotta go back over here. D, right?
Yeah. the drawings that we submitted, we'll start with here with the site plan. Existing building pretty much covers the whole site from north to south. There is a paved area that we hatched on the right-hand side of the picture that would be used for staging, since that was one of the questions raised by staff. So we do have that taken care of. Go to the next slide. The proposed floor plan for the second floor, you gotta remember that all this is there now. There's a paved area, the floor is paved, there's a drainage system in the floor deck. All that has been done already, so none of that's new construction. The parapet walls are there. The area you see, there's an inside area there that's directly in the middle, and then the outside hatched area is the north end of the building where we propose to put a flat roof. The open area would still be on the right-hand side, which we'd like to enclose, and that represents the 70 extra tables. The hatched area represents seating for 110 people. Okay, the next photo is the structure, which has come into question on the theory that, you know, we've been asked to set back 9 or 10 feet from each side of the building by staff. The existing structure of let me start with the floor. The floor is made up of a holly board system, which is a styrofoam, lightweight insulating concrete, because we had to raise the floor on that deck over 12 inches, and we put drains that were above the roof of the dining area below that get the water off, all the rainwater off there as quickly as we could and not flood any areas of that deck area. So we built up the whole area. So there's nothing underneath this floor to support any new columns out in the middle of the areas. It's just styrofoam. Had we been able to do this back in 2018 when we had the whole building gutted, we would have been able to bring up columns or reinforce the steel below, but that's not feasible. And that's a hardship at this area to even think about doing that. So the only way we can put the roof, this flat roof on, is to bring the structural columns out to where the parapet wall is on the north and west side of the building. They're shown by these little dots. There's the same pattern that you saw before in the 7-foot high things. There are 4 columns across, 5 columns across the front, and there's 6 bays across the north side. These columns would be 4x4 steel columns that would be framed from the inside of the parapet wall. I'll show you a section in a minute. But they would be framed behind the parapet wall, so they're set back about 18, 20 inches from the face of the building on the second floor. And they would go up, and they would support a steel beam system that's holding up the roof. A flat roof is designed to drain to 2 internal drains, so you don't see a pitched roof, you won't see metal roofing, you won't see any of the roof at all. All you'll see is a black edge line of the fascia board going around those sides. Go back a slide, go back to the structural one. Okay, what you see on the structural drawing here are some W12x30s that go in the north-south direction. Those are our main frame, but in terms of support, all we have really is that darkened inside column. Oh, you got it going. Right here. Yeah, right there. That's an existing column with a bunch of steel in it. We can use that, but there's nothing between there and the outside parapet wall to hold anything else up. So the idea of trying to frame without going to the outside wall will not work. You have to think of the structure more in terms of a tent, and that's what we try to do. The more posts you have around the tent, it'll stand up better. If you have a 3-post tent or a 4-post tent, it's not as good as having 6 posts to hold up a tent against the wind loads, gravity loads, and everything else that's going to apply. So by going to multiple columns spaced as we have, we can lessen the load on each column and take it into the structure below, which is part of our hardship. If we could go all the way through that building, it'd be a different story, but that day was back in 1918, or 2018 rather. Okay, keep going. Go ahead. Okay, this is the roof plan, darkened with the roof drain shown. Keep going. Okay, what you see here would be the revised south elevation. What you see in the background is just a flat roof, and you really won't see that till you get past Fifth Avenue, headed to 6th Street. You don't see any of that coming up because of the other buildings and the trees and the signs and everything else that's in the way. The next elevation is a west elevation across the front where on the right side, you've got the open deck area. You've got a 6-foot canopy over the inside area that goes north to south. And then what we're proposing is this small area with the 4 bays that you see on the north end of the building. Next slide. This would be from looking at the north side of the building, where we have 6 bays with the same steel columns, the thin steel columns. So all you're gonna see, and really you won't, when it's open, you really don't focus on any mass of that, because the columns are so small compared to what we're doing here. Each section will show a sample there, would have a roll-down built-in screen system on the inside that would provide the rain guard that we need for customers. And that would take care of wind and rain. So you could sit next to this roll-down screen. We'd be able to drop the screens, we'd be able to drop the screens when rain was coming or when it was started to rain, and the customers would be protected from the weather. It would guarantee the restaurant could operate at 100% of the days without worry about what those afternoon rainstorms or evening might be. On the samples you're looking at, there's plenty there to see, but we would eventually do a mock-up and have Ron invited to pick one and pick out what's going to look best when it's done. I think we're too early in the process to make a final selection at this point. Yeah. Now next we got a couple of building sections here which show the buildup of the styrofoam system that we had to use to level the slope bar joist system that's below it on the second floor. The open deck area is to your right. This is a section looking to the east where you see the exit door into the stairs, and then you see the enclosed area. And the existing canopy over that area would be removed, and the roof would be what we're showing at the flat deck area. And the last drawing illustrates how we do this. And it took a lot of work structurally to figure this out and make this thing support. We've got to take care of 150-mile-an-hour winds. We got uplift. We have corner loads. We have downlift gravity. That roof has to stay on that building next hurricane that comes through here. We only had 130 miles an hour last fall. We have to design to 150 miles an hour because it's an assembly building. So that's our design criteria. That's our load that we have to factor in. What we've done is at the base of this, on the inside of the parapet wall, which you see on the left side of the drawing here, we've built a concrete curb, which is more ballast or weight to hold down the uplift loads. From that, behind the parapet wall, will go up a steel column to the roof beams, which would be hidden from the outside, but on the inside, they would just be painted black and concealed. And then we have a thin insulated roof deck that's with sloping tapered insulation board to make our deck roof drains work. And there's a blow up of the edge detail to the right there, which shows where the roll down storm shades would go. Is that it there? Okay, and then another final one that shows a close-up of the section of what that flat roof would look like. It really only has a thickness of about 8 inches once we get down to it.
I think we go to the presentation section.
Okay, and the 3 photos.
Building rendering?
Yeah, okay.
Let's see here. F.
We'd be glad to come back and discuss any of these things in detail with you. We do have our structural engineer, Tom Dixon, with us today, that he can get into any of the structural questions you might have. But these 3 photos that we have in closing here, this shows a complete roof over the whole building, which is what the intent was when we started back in the summer, last summer of '24, to do a flat roof over the whole building so that that second floor area for 300 people would be fully usable and occupable. Go ahead. Go, next slide. This is what's there now with the umbrellas, and you see the higher section of the posts and the fencing at the north end there. We're gonna be a few feet higher than that. And so the change in the view of what you see on the building doesn't change. The historic value of the first floor and all the character it has is not touched at all by what we're gonna do on this flat roof. Next picture. Okay, this is kind of a doctored rendering of that corner shot. This would be what we show the 4-inch columns going up. Telephone poles there now. That's not us. Yeah, we'll have a flat roof on it, and all you'll see would be the fascia board on it. And then the next picture gives an illustration of what shades might look like when they're down. I mean, there won't be that big a pattern, but we wanted to show something for you. So that would only happen during rainstorms. So if you're out on the railroad track looking at the building during the rainstorm, that's what you'd see. So I think that concludes what we can tell you. We have a lot more loaded into the system. If you have questions, we'd be glad to come back. Thank you.
One last point of interest, Tim Steele again with the Columbia Restaurant Group. We met with Mr. Vila quite a few times. I don't know if you remember this or not, but he goes, I know what's going to happen. We're going to put the columns up and then you're going to want to close it in. Well, we're not wanting to close it in ever in the future. We've had huge success in our Sand Key operations that we have screens there. It's amazing how the water does not penetrate the screen. It bubbles down just like you would see your bubbles on your side of your car. We've had huge success there. Very big open air area, and the screens do stay up except for when it's raining, and then they come down automatically. So I wanted to share that with you. Also, the other thing is that Mr. Vila was bringing it up is that, you know, that it's so hot here and so forth, and we've had huge success at Eulalie, at Sand Key, and at Cha-Cha's using these. The name is Big Ass Fans, but that's the name of the company. But those things push air, and we've learned that our guests are fine as long as they have a little air. It doesn't matter how hot it is. If you invest the money on these fans, they're very expensive. It gives enough air for people to enjoy. So I wanted to make sure that staff and you guys knew that the idea is not to close this in later on. It's just to have an open, free flow camping. Close it in, it's not the same thing. We want a rooftop bar up there. We do not want a closed structure up there. It's for events more than seating, but we want to be flexible to have both. That's all I wanted to add on top of that.
Good morning, Commissioners. Ron Vila with Historic Preservation. So the request in front of you this morning is for a certificate of appropriateness for new construction for a rooftop addition. So let's focus on that rooftop addition. On the staff report, on page 4, I have staff's finding that this application is consistent with the Ybor City Design Guidelines and the Secretary of Interior Standards with the plans that we reviewed on March 5th, 2025. In accordance with the Secretary of Interior's, new additions must preserve the historic character of the building. In order to do that, it must be different but compatible. Particularly in the case of rooftop additions, an addition should be positioned to minimize the visibility and impact on the proportions and profile of the historic building. As such, the proposed rooftop addition should be recessed from the primary elevation to reduce the visual impact and appearance on this contributing structure. I have some conditions as well on page 4. Some of the conditions was to revisit the rooftop footprint to reduce the visibility, to provide a perspective view to illustrate the compatibility, which they have provided this morning. And there's some bullet items here. They passed around a material sample. They do have a swatch here to share with you. When we engage in rooftop additions in the past, we look at TVs, we look at lighting, some signage that might appear. They've addressed some of the issues that were my concerns early on. We've met with them many times, and they have modified their initial request to what you see this morning. In the rendering that they provided this morning, it shows that it shoots up. They provided some dimensions with that. I don't know what the interior height is from the floor to that, if it could be reduced. We're looking for it to be reduced and pushed back to meet the Secretary of Interior standards. Speaking of the standards, I've incorporated them into your staff report as well. And just to go through what's recommended and not recommended for the rooftop additions, here is to design a compatible rooftop addition for multi-story buildings. We're talking about one-story building here, so sensitivity even is exacerbated as you review this. When required for a new use, that is set back at least one full bay from the primary or visible elevation. So we're looking for that setback. They show some examples here as well of what's recommended. And then what's not recommended is to construct a rooftop addition that's highly visible. So that's what's in front of you this morning to see the visibility of what they're requesting this morning. What's recommended, once again, for rooftop additions is limiting the rooftop addition to 1 story in height to minimize the visual impact on the historic structures. And what's not recommended is constructing a rooftop addition on a low-rise or 1 to 3 story historic building that is highly visible. So that's the interpretation of what we're reviewing this morning, is the visibility. What I've incorporated into this morning as well, I wanted to show you some past approvals that we worked with people that were successful. On the corner of 13th and 7th Avenue. This is known as the Khadija Building. The 1-story building is here, and then the rooftop addition. So this is the footprint here on 7th Avenue as it turns the corner on 13th Street. You see the setback dimension from the primary elevation and the side elevation, how it was set back. This is how it looks in elevation, how it was received by this board, and how it looks today. I had to get at an angle just right to see the building at all, the 2nd story addition. To continue on, this is at 1901 East 7th Avenue. This was the site plan that was presented. It was a 2-story building, 7th and 19th. They did an addition to the rear here. The rooftop, as I highlighted, so you can understand the perimeter of the building here, and the setback an amount so the visibility is diminished as it moves forward. This is the illustration that they provided of what you would see. This one's not been built, it's in permitting. And then lastly, on the corner of 21st and 7th, known as the Reina Building. Want to show you the rooftop. You see the perimeter parapet and how the addition of the rooftop was presented and approved. These are the approved drawings. You see our stamp here. And this is how it looks currently. So I purposely didn't show any dimensions to any of these past approvals. I think it's very site-specific. I think it should be up for discussion to see what's compatible with this particular site. And to conclude, this is the historic structure that functions as a restaurant, and that's the rooftop shot of it. I'll be here to answer any questions.
Okay, anyone here from the public wishing to comment on this case, please identify yourself.
Do we get to respond to that?
This is public comment right now. We're gonna get into questions of the case.
We will,
Okay. All right, so no one for public comment? Okay, we're gonna ask the applicant some questions. Vivian, you wanna start us off?
Boy. Can you tell me, please, the height? It looked like it was 11 feet. I couldn't read the dimension on the drawing over here, but it looked like it was 11 to the underside of the canopy structure and then 12 to the top.
Yeah, we can pull that picture back up. Joe Hafner speaking.
I'm sorry?
I said Joe Hafner speaking. We'll pull that drawing back up for you right here and explain it to you.
let's see, that was D.
The 4.1.
Yeah, I gotta go.
Okay, this is this section here that's up on the screen. What we're going is from the existing deck on the inside, which is lower than the top of the parapet wall. We're going up 12 feet to the top of steel, and the steel itself, the framing that runs primarily around the perimeters and stuff, is a 12-inch beam. So we're to the bottom of steel, we're 12 inches. We need the 12-foot, which will give us 11 feet below that. We need it for the ceiling fans, for light fixtures, for sprinklers, and all that stuff to go under the beams and in between. And based on that size room anything smaller than that's just gonna make a lot of noise. So that's, I hope it answers your question.
Well, yeah, all I needed was the dimension. Description of the fans.
Okay, sorry.
Didn't much matter, but, and those columns are, as represented in your rendering, are black.
They would be painted black. They're steel, what we expect right now are they're 4x4 steel, tube steel columns that would be painted black and not encased any other ways.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, all the trim on the building now, the wrought iron and the railings, all that's black, and that's what we're matching to.
right. Okay, that was my only question.
Okay. So I should-
No, let's see if there's anything else I need.
Could you pull up the rendering that you had with the screens open?
Yep,
Okay.
there you go.
All right, so, and just kind of talking through things, so the posts are 4x4, the railing posts, I think they're probably like 2x2s, is that quite
The
right?
railing, the existing railing post is a 2x2, and that runs on top of the parapet wall right now.
Yep.
And that has to stay. We're not touching that because that's in a different plane. We're behind the parapet wall with what we're doing. Sits on top of the parapet wall, and that has to be there for code.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of trying to gauge, just the relative thickness of everything right now. So they're going to be about like twice as thick, right, more or less. And then talking about just sort of your sort of like roof detail, you're talking about looking at the fascia, but we can also kind of see like the header underneath there, right? So where those beams are kind of coming in. I think the beams are running.
Right, from column to column, there will be
column,
a
right.
12-inch header.
Yeah, so we'll see that 12-inch header. And then so what's the underside of that roof? What's the ceiling?
It's a metal deck.
It'll be metal deck, so it would just painted black, corrugated metal
Yeah,
deck?
it would be a corrugated metal deck, painted black, and then on top of that is an insulation board that gives us the tapered slopes.
Right, okay. And then lighting on this would just be,
It'd have to be a drop pendant light that would be arranged to probably in a pattern that would set back from the edge of the wall, around the perimeter. We'd
okay.
set it back in, so tabletops around the edge would probably have candles or something else that would work for them.
so there's no lights on like the posts or anything like that, right?
No, there won't, there's no interior posts, because there's no way to put any interior posts in the space.
Right, I just wanted to make sure you weren't putting any lights on the exterior post either.
No,
anything
no,
like that kind of stuff,
no
okay.
intention to do that.
And then, and I think from your section that you were kind of showing, it's the sill, I guess, for better lack of my terminology, it looks like the sill is kind of sloped inward, so you're still gonna have a little bit of water drainage that's gonna kind of come in. So you're leaving the drainage that's existing on that roof.
Yeah, that roof, and you see the styrofoam base on that drawing there?
Yeah.
That built up, the Holy Board has holes in it that combines the lightweight concrete from the top layer to the bottom layer, and then there's tile on it. So right now, that whole deck area has a trench drain, 2 of them, that get all the water off there. So we're not, removing any more water with this roof than we would be, actually less than if it were open.
I gotcha. All right, thanks. Those are my questions. If you don't mind.
Hi, yeah, structurally everything makes sense, and sorry if I missed it, but just like electrical and like lighting wise, is it going to be internal underneath the roof?
It'd be underneath the roof, yeah. It would be back inside under the roof area.
So nothing external on.
Nothing
the sides of-
external. Right now, you see a string of the slide that's up here. You see the little lights that illuminate the building. That's all that's on the outside right now, and that's all that will be there.
Okay, thank you.
Let's go back to a plan.
Okay.
And maybe you can comment on what the extent of this renovation is. I mean, you're just not doing a rooftop addition. Are you changing the interior of the building on the second floor to deal with this new seating area up there? Or?
No, sir. To back up, what you see now is the existing second floor plan.
Okay,
You see the hard corner there, there's an inside bar area and a
Right.
few tables inside.
which aren't shown.
That's kind of right
But your
there.
some of your other plans showed the bar area in there, right? But you're not,
There is a
Just
bar
that-
area, but it's inside this area where he's got the little arrow
Right.
now.
Right.
It's back inside the existing structure that was there before we started.
Okay, yeah, your
So-
cover sheet, you kind of listed like areas of renovation and we're doing this, we're doing that, but that's outdated? You're saying it's not, there's
No,
no
the
interior
existing floor,
renovation?
the existing floor and the drainage system stays, parapet wall stays, all we're doing is putting a roof on.
A shaded roof area to the north.
A shade, yeah, a
northwest.
weatherproof roof on it.
Okay, so,
The drawing.
and you're going all the way to the parapet wall, which is mentioned in the Secretary of Interior Standards, which you guys are a part of here, or following, because it is a historic building. You've taken ad valorem credits for the work here, so you acknowledge that it's a historic building. So I think the main concern here is, why isn't that rooftop area set back a little bit from the front wall? And what I'm hearing is that you can't do it because of structural concerns?
Right, that's a hardship, and, you know, by comparison, all the other pictures you saw were on Seventh Avenue, and this is a whole different zoning district with different rules. But the structurally, and we have the structural engineer that can explain it further to you better than I can, if you wish to talk to him, but there is no structure that we can do between the parapet wall and the existing walls that are back further of the building because of the way the building is built. The styrofoam floor, we
So-
can't put any columns in. You gotta be able to have something to hold the edge of that roof.
Okay, so were options explored to be able to have a roof, more historically sensitive rooftop area than going all the way to the edge of the one-story building?
We explored those options, we explored different options of holding up the edge, not doing the concrete curb, having it bolted through the parapet wall with the steel angles and stuff, and, there's no other way to do it because we can't bring any structure down through the middle at this point in time. 2018, we could have done it when we had the foundations, everything open on the first floor, but as a retrofit roof addition at this point in time, the hardship exists that we've got to go to the parapet wall for structure. And that's, to meet all the wind loads and everything else we have to satisfy. And the structural engineer would be glad to get in more detail with you.
So that's all determined by the insulation, the
Everything on there is lightweight. We went to a lightweight insulated roof to cut weight on it. We went to the metal deck to cut weight on it. We have the structure, like I tried to explain, in the tent pole system where we had a lot of little columns to hold it up to get away from the big weight coming down at 3 or 4 columns. It's just what we have to deal with.
Can I
So-
jump in real quick, please? The existing, when we had the
For
building,
record,
we
just
started doing the
identify-
construction.
Just identify yourself again.
Oh, Tim Steele, Columbia Restaurant Group. The interior portion of the second floor, it was already there and done. When I started doing demolition, I had to walk across the street to Mr. Gonsmar and say, that building is not structurally adhered to the existing floor. I don't know how it got past permitting inspections. So we had to take everything off, put concrete beams on the roof to build the second floor that you see today. Do you remember this? And so we duplicated exactly what we had. We spent $400,000 just to do that part of that rebuild. But subsequently, the roof deck and the finished floor of that second floor was built like your deck at your house. It was just 2 by 12 or 2 by PT. So the idea is to build this thing up substantially was to use the Holy board and the lightweight concrete. And if you're not familiar with Holy board, it's just styrofoam with holes in it, and the concrete goes in there, and we have a topping on there. So therefore, at the time, like Mr. Hefner said, if we knew we were going to be allowed to do the whole thing or partial like that, we would have made arrangements for that. We're not, but the rules at that time was what we have, and so therefore, the idea of putting an interior footer within that span on top of styrofoam it makes no sense as it relates to any kind of structure issue at all. We can't bring it all the way down to the ground through the floor and everything else. And that's kind of it at the deal. And while I'm here, the lighting What's the thing about the lighting? We have festival lights under there. That, maybe if that's an issue with you, we'll be glad to oblige to you what you need on that. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. The other thing is the idea of not, if we only went halfway or something, that's not enough return on our investment. We would not get that many guests in that protected area. All we're doing really is putting an umbrella over the outside of the existing building. No floor finishes, no wall finishes. The ceiling, yes, we'll paint it and you know, make it as beautiful as it is downstairs. We do a very good job of having a nice structure when we're all said and done. Thank you.
So
This drawing.
that system that you put up there, the insulation system, it's fully rated as a floor, right?
It's a walkable roof, so it has to be serviced, yes.
So it's rated as a floor. I mean, you have a floor load up there.
On the proposed
That
roof?
would have
No, on
been
the
there
existing.
already.
Well, on the existing second floor area, that is a rated floor load.
Okay. So you have there's some capacity to go into that floor where the insulation isn't, right? I mean, is that an accurate representation? I mean, my main concern is that there's zero setback of this rooftop addition off a historic building, which is, I mean, that's historic preservation 101, that you have to have some setback to separate
Well,
an addition or a modification to an existing historic building. There needs to be some differentiation of where that roof line goes. And I don't think very much, I mean, why couldn't, like, if you're putting that concrete block there, why can't that go up, in one bay to the next area of
There's nothing
concrete
to
that you're
support
showing
it.
there?
There's no column.
Because there's nothing to
It's getting
support the load of
supported
those
from down
columns
below.
coming down. Because that's
With
all
that
started from.
column.
It'll support a people load.
So you're taking that off the wall load, and you're not using the floor at all.
Good
Mr.
morning.
Dixon, how are you?
My name's Tom Dixon. I'm a structural engineer. I've been involved in this project for over a decade. And I'm very familiar with the building. And I would like to say that, you know, we have a functioning restaurant underneath the building. The interior of the restaurant is pristine. We can't possibly have any leaks. Now, that was, you know, part and parcel to what we were going to do on the roof when we built the structure for the rooftop deck. And Hafner had come up with a floor system that could support 100 pounds per square foot and resist rain. We don't want to have any drops falling even once in a while on patrons at a restaurant. It's just terrible. Word would get around, and that would be really the end of things. If you had a leaky restaurant with you know, 2,000, 3,000 square feet of roof that had any penetration. So we made sure that the roof structure was strong enough. And with regard to this new structure that we're putting on, I would go back to the original structure, which actually did have a very robust perimeter, because when it was originally built, the roof structure spanned from perimeter to perimeter with big steel trusses. And this all caved in at one point in time. Ms. Salaga may know that. But, because I viewed it then. I viewed it years ago when it had collapsed. But, so the interior walls were being, I mean, the exterior walls of the restaurant during some stage of the existence of this project were just getting beaten up, and it became necessary to reinforce them, and an entire perimeter concrete structural frame was placed. Girders were placed on the roof. All of this was in anticipation of having a high load second floor. But one of the things about that floor, although it can support 100 pounds per square foot, it has a a unique drainage system. From the top side, all you see are a couple of trench drains. But underneath that, there's a series of cavities, water runs. It doesn't run down into the restaurant. It runs inside of interior cavities and it exits the system. If we, the solution that we have, I was mandated to come up with a solution that would not penetrate that roof system, which is working perfectly well. And there really is no way to get a setback without creating some penetration. We're putting our new structure just inboard. I mean, you could call it a setback, frankly. It's setback maybe a foot and a half, but it's interior of the perimeter wall. We're placing a continuous concrete collector beam that will receive all the columns, and this pavilion will be placed on that. And that distributes the loads around the perimeter where the underfloor drainage system is not. And to speak to why we can't set it back, first of all, we would have to penetrate that system, which would compromise it most likely. And second of all, matters which don't concern me is the seating area would not be viable for this project. So the interior seating area would be reduced so that the numbers just don't work. And if there's any questions.
Yeah, would it be possible to angle the posts slightly, like maybe 20, 30 degrees inwards, so that you can still kind of collect the forces down where at the edges, but we can still maybe, I'm not sure how it would look, right, necessarily at this point, but you can maybe get some extra relief from it at this point in time.
That would put a thrust on the exterior parapet wall, but it's not, we're not currently, I mean, I haven't looked at that, frankly.
Or like an L shape, where it comes down and goes into the side of the concrete. Have you explored that option?
That,
We explored the option of coming off Joe Hafner speaking again. We explored the option of coming off the inside of the parapet wall, using the parapet wall there, which is a 3-wide brick assembly, to hold it, and just couldn't handle the weight of wind loads and things that we needed on it. So, doing any type of angled framing off of there is just adding to the structural issues of offset loads and everything else.
More specifically, to build on my commissioner's idea or thought, but you're already building, I mean, you're doing a concrete tie beam right there. Why can't you come off of that a certain amount of distance, then go up? So you're not thrusting out at an angle, you're coming in and up to at least get some setback off of that exterior wall.
Well, one would be losing 50% of our floor area by doing that to what they're asking. If we tried to come off horizontally.
50%?
Yeah, of that north end, if we come back 9 feet is what was, the first bay, we end up losing almost 50% of that usable space in that north end of the building. Plus, doing that, all we're doing is transferring the load to a horizontal load, which would probably, we're tying that beam, tagging it into the parapet wall to help keep the parapet wall in place, but the more thrust you put on that from every one of these columns, loads, you're just increasing the risk of that original wall failure.
Yeah, I don't know if, 9 feet, no one really mentioned a distance here. I haven't heard any proposed setbacks of what would be acceptable. I think when I look at the existing drawings of what we did for the original canopy, that was set back about 20 feet, which, I don't know, that's probably a little bit excessive, from that original canopy.
Well, the original building back to 2011, it was about 25 feet.
Right, and I don't think anyone's looking for a number like that in that amount, but I think there's got to be some kind of nod to the historic nature of the building that this overhang can't go all the way to the building perimeter. So I don't know if there's a magic number of what that is. It could be 2 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet, I don't know.
Or 1 foot, which is what it is. 1.5 feet, it looks like.
Yeah, the existing parapet wall is 14 inches, and we're 6 or 8 inches inside that to the
Yeah,
columns.
but it appears flush with that exterior wall.
But, you know, when you look at it from the outside, you're not gonna see the concrete, you're not gonna, all you're gonna see is a thin post going up. And we preserved the whole outside of this building.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend any offset because it's going to cause a rotational moment that the parapet is really not going to be able to take. It's not reinforced brick. It's stacked.
That's,
Yeah, I think some of the issue that the commissioners may be struggling with at the moment is the appearance of solidity. The drawings that we've been presented with don't actually represent well the transparency of the canopy because and there are no walls, but the roof is making it appear as if it's a solid element up there when it in fact really is not. And was any thought given to the viability of a retractable roof so that when the weather is wonderful, it's open, and the impact of the solidity of the roof would not be there in quite the same way? And maybe not even all the way for the whole roof, but at least that, you know, maybe that first 10 feet, I mean, I don't mean to suggest a design change, but that first 10 feet where the frame of the canopy would appear to be skeletal as opposed to solid.
All right, to answer your question, a retractable roof was considered back in 2018, and we were told we couldn't do it. At this point,
but that was 2018.
well, at that point, we could have done the structure to support the weight of a retractable roof. To put that in now would add much more weight to that roof because it would have to be a glass structure, and the weight of the glass on
Why would
it.
it have to be solid?
If
I
you-
mean, I've seen canopies on other restaurant operations where it's a fabric that's out there on that extended, the portion of the retractable roof.
We just don't have the space or the structure to be able to do that at this time on this roof.
And because when you look at the profile of the fascia, for lack of a better word, the fascia surrounding the roof, it's very thick, and it just seems the depth of it. I know you're trying to hide the little roller mechanism for the screen, but does the roof actually need 6 inches of insulation up there? I mean, it's an outdoor space for.
We need it for
heaven's
for
sake.
roof slope.
for drainage.
For drainage, we need the slope for the drainage.
And I think that's part of my concern, when we go back to that wall section, you've got the roof section of a certain profile, then you step it back in, which is a good move, right? You're trying to offset that, minimize that, but that whole setback, and I think there might be a dimension on it. 1 inch,
It's
8
hard to
inches.
see that.
Yeah, 8,
and a
so
half.
let's say 9, less than a
8
foot.
and 8, 16 inches, so it's about like that.
Well, 6 inches up top. But yeah, so it's not very much, and when you look at that 8.5 up and then another foot down, I mean, that's a pretty significant
It's a significant edge.
that's coming out there. And I think, you know, in general, I think from a historic preservation standpoint, you don't put an addition all the way to the front of a historic building. It's gotta be set back a representative amount, and I think there's
Yeah.
kind of like a very minimal,
Except all of the samples that we were looking at that Ron showed, most of the samples, were solid structures. Now, the solid structure that's on this building is set way back. It was there during the 2018 renovation or whenever that had taken place.
That's since
And
2011.
what they're proposing now is simply a canopy. It's not, it's not an enclosed space where you would see a solid face. And I think it's unfortunate that the renderings that we've been presented don't really show the transparency as well as it maybe could have been depicted, so it wouldn't appear to be such a solid structure. But when you're on the ground, looking up at this, you're going to, no one is going to see the building in the way that we look at it on a set of drawings. I mean, the public are going to be on the sidewalk. And so if you're looking at that from the sidewalk, it just would be better to try, but this one you're showing us doesn't have the roof.
Can you show the rendering? The renderings?
Right, well, it's hard to, when you're at the building looking up, all you're gonna see is the edge. You're not gonna see the mass of the roof structure. You have to be maybe a block away to see the mass of the roof structure. It's hard to show this in any type of rendering, because, we can show the posts and we can show accurately the post height, but, you're gonna have some type of roof that if you're far enough away across the street, standing on the railroad track, you may see the underside of that roof. And that's what we're trying, we're not trying to disguise it, we're showing you what what it would be. But the closer you get to the building, all you're gonna see, if anything, would be just the edge of it. And you'll see those little 4 posts, and I think the 4 posts visually with the open air inside are gonna go away, and you're gonna, your focus is gonna be on the historical building.
But if you look at this rendering, the depth of the fascia surrounding it it's heavy. The roof structure itself is heavy because you've got that additional 8 inches down below that you're trying to obscure the roller screen with. So that's, I think, that's what's making it, in my mind, is making it look more heavy than it necessarily needs to be.
Well,
The fact that it's on the edge of the building, it isn't really on the edge of the building, and that part doesn't really bother me as much, because it is a structure that if you took it away, 10 years from now, you took that off, the historic building would still be there and would not be impacted, and it wouldn't affect anything. It's just, for right now, the appearance of the heaviness of it, I think, is whereas a canopy structure ought to have an appearance of lightness and airiness and open.
Well, what you're seeing is the 12-inch deep perimeter beam. If we can make that beam 8 inches deep, this guy will be happier and we'll do it.
I would love it. Doesn't cost me as much.
But but our preliminary estimates on the numbers that were run is that we probably need a 12-inch beam. If we can make it lesser, it would be, but it's not for the roll-down shades, it's for the structure.
Oh, because of the wind loading?
Yeah,
We
the
can
wind
get it
loading
down.
On that corner, and the wind loading, we got 150 mile an hour wind, we gotta make sure this doesn't end up in 22nd Street next hurricane.
We
So-
can get it down to 8 inch.
I mean, and I would challenge you as well, because I would pretty much agree with my colleagues. So you had 2 main strategies here that we had kind of talked about, right? You could set back the structure, which you're telling us is not viable. So now the thing is, how do we minimize the impact of the structure and minimize its appearance and make it as light as possible now at this point in time? So then the challenge becomes, well, even just like how the header for the beams is kind of inset from the roof up top, I think it's kind of distracting as well. Like we kind of look back, we see like the coping that comes up from the roof of the back. I just kind of want to see a drip edge come down and kind of come down and be as even as possible, right? I think the little offset gets a little distracting as well in terms of making this kind of stand out a little more. So in terms of minimizing that header, like I think one of the probably one of the most famous and best architects that kind of do this is like Foston Partners, especially with like their Apple stores. They kind of do those like razor thin edges at their roof lines and stuff like that. I don't like a lot of their stuff, but they are very good at engineering, just those razor thin profiles. So maybe some precedent there, or so maybe some inspiration of how we can maybe try to minimize this. I know obviously in Florida we have the wind loads and all that stuff, which presents an engineering challenge. But then how do we sort of minimize, as people were saying, how do we minimize that header and just that fascia? And just like, because when we originally presented it, we just talked about seeing that fascia, but it's a little bit of a lie, right? Because we can see that header underneath. It's not just that little fascia board that kind of goes around.
Right.
And I don't know as well, like with one of the things, because kind of looking in section, we have the beams and the header sitting on top of the post. I'm not sure we can bolt those beams into the post themselves and kind of try to, set back some sort of lateral support on the roof, kind of further inside somehow, and kind of so that we can take that header further back in and just maybe not see it. Maybe that's something else that's possible to kind of take a look at, but I think the challenge now becomes of how do we kind of minimize this canopy structure for you all at this point in time.
Okay, Tim Steele again, Columbia Restaurant Group. I've investigated at all of our restaurants. We've had canopies, we've had stuff. You bring up very good points as far as retractable roofs and such. At our Sand Key I told you about, our canopy is way up high and comes down to about 10 foot to the water's edge. So having that volume, we don't feel the heat that's being brought down in here. At the cafe at the History Center, if you remember, had a blue tarp. That thing was hot as Hades. We ran temperature gauges. It was way over 100 degrees. We decided there to put a refrigerant panel on top of it. Spent $300,000 there. Put the refrigerant, and it's paid huge dividends for the city, for the History Center, and for ourselves. I was trying to do that this here, but we still have the structural components, whether we put in the post here or there. I'm floored that you're saying, well, that was in 18, we'll give it to you now. I'm floored that you're saying that, because we begged for it back then. We begged for it, and we were given a strong stiff arm. So it's kind of unfair in my mind that you're saying that, we needed to do other stuff on that regards. Mr. Dixon just informed me that he can lessen that profile to 8-inch. Possibly we need to run some numbers to confirm, to keep that 12 inches there for you. But, and then you're right, there might be a way to cantilever back a little. It's a curve. Every action is a reaction. I don't know what the costs were to do this, to do that, but if we can. But the bottom line is that we have to grab the weight, because we didn't have a chance to do it back then, to put the infrastructure in back then. We're mandated to stay on this perimeter because you guys left us no choice back in 2018. That's all there's to it. So I don't think it's fair for you to, and I also want to point out too, I mean, if we had it higher, I don't think you would have liked that either. If you'd look at this rendering, is that on the screen? I don't know. But anyway, you can see we're lower than that back structure.
Right.
And what they're not really kind of sharing to you, the reason why we have the built-up roof is for insulation value. But 90% of that rain goes back on my old roof, on my old new roof. It's going that way. We don't have a water issue here because all this water, you talked about the trench drains for the regular rain that falls on the ground. When we put this up, 90% of this water is going back to where our manifolded drains are. So I'm respectfully saying that we've squeezed this washcloth as hard as we can. We've looked at retractables, we looked at panels, we looked at this, and this is the only thing we can do. If we're mandated to do any percentage less, there's not a return on our investment, and we're not going to be able to probably take care of it.
I think we all understand the discussion and the history of this building, of what's been going on. In hindsight, you could say, yeah, we should maybe put some more structure up there because it's a habitable space. We're going to have people up there. We might want to do something different in the future. That being said, we are where we are right now today, okay?
I get it.
And I think the concern that this commission has is in the heaviness of that structure up there and the proximity to the existing historic perimeter wall. I think there's more things that could be done to try to spend a little bit more time here to make it a more elegant solution, perhaps, that we could all be good with.
Do we want to
So-
ask from,
Well, we have any more questions of the commissioners, and then we can, of the applicant, excuse me? We're just gonna try to stay on our process here. We're not done yet, but we're
Okay.
gonna try to
All
stay
right.
on our agenda here.
But we'll, if the math works, we'll be happy to lower that to 8 inches. Like he said, that makes
All
my
right.
bottom dollar better. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? Okay, we're gonna go ahead and close the public hearing. Actually, you have if you wanna, he's kind of used to that, but you have a few minutes, 5 minutes for rebuttal of anything that we've discussed before we close the public hearing, okay, and then there'll be no more questions.
One thing I'd add to the commissioner's question about the thickness of the roof edge. We tapered the insulation board, and it's thicker at the edge so we can have the drains in the middle. If we were gonna put gutters on this thing and drain it to the outside, we wouldn't need that thickness of insulation at the perimeter. But then we're dealing with ugly gutters and downspouts all over the place. So it was intentional to slope the roof back to the middle to handle the stormwater on it. Thank you.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and close the public hearing, and then we can have discussion of the commissioners.
Yeah, I've no comments at this time. Okay.
No, as kind of discussed, I think if we can't kind of push and I would sort of agree with Lillian, like I'm not as opposed to it being at the edge of the building, but we have to make sure that this canopy looks as light as possible in order to do so. And so kind of reworking that fascia, the header, trying to make it just seem as light as possible. And then just now the mention of the gutter, if that gets rid of the tapered insulation, makes things thinner, then could you somehow put an internal gutter and kind of run it along the depth of the steel beams as well? So maybe something also maybe take a look at, and just how do we kind of minimize that fascia and header as much as possible in order to just lighten the look of this addition.
One of the examples or samples that was shown, it appeared as though the rooftop was right up on the edge. Can we put that image back on? The examples?
The rendering?
We're closed. On the public.
No,
So-
it wasn't.
So,
It's
if you
no.
wanna cite
Oh.
that,
Yeah.
I don't know if we wanna reopen the public hearing.
No.
So, I think we've seen like a couple examples of what they've done, like the AI collaborative one that this board reviewed recently. Their actual structure's back, but then anything that's cantilevered that comes out, or their shading structure on that 1901 building, is very light, but it's also still set back.
Gotcha.
It doesn't go all the way to the perimeter.
Gotcha.
And then I think, I think we face the same thing with Hotel Hyatt, with their guardrails. And I think it's just, per Secretary of Interior standards, there's gotta be some kind of notion that whatever's an addition on a historic building is set back at a certain amount of distance. And I think the intent there is to minimize the visibility. I think this board, now I'm gonna talk, I guess. But I guess this board kind of realizes that this is a historic building, that they do need shade structure up there, that they do have limited structural capability. But I think there's certain moves that could be done. I wouldn't say, like this solution, you also see like aluminum walkway covers that are really thin that are self-draining, and I don't think they want to go that. I think we've heard them talk about, well, probably for acoustics and rain, making sure that the rain doesn't get on any customers, that this is probably the Cadillac of the system that they want to go with for acoustics and drainage, and we understand that. I think there's some moves that could be made to make a more active movement here to bring that canopy, make it smaller, make it tighter, move it back a little bit, to get off of that historic perimeter wall to be a little bit more sensitive. I think there are limitations here of the structure that prevent them from doing what they're like. I look at this and I'm like, oh, why don't you do that whole strip there?
Right.
Set it back, 8-10 feet and just make a whole seating area up there and use that. But I think there's structural limitations to be able to do that. So I think they've probably already explored that. We didn't see all their thought process on that. But I think this board has been involved with this building, and the city and the board and members of EBOR have been involved with this building for many, many years. Since 2008, from a documentation standpoint, we've gone through the ad valorem process with this building. I think everyone wants to do what's best for this building, including the applicant, the Gonsmart family. I just think the solution needs to be a little bit more elegant and refined, if they can work with us on that. And I think they, as benefactors, and as Ms. Gonsmart stated earlier, we know this is the edge of Ybor City. It's not the perimeter, and we're gonna see things happen on the east side. So there's more things. It's not just about being on 7th Avenue. And from my standpoint, I just think both the west perimeter is probably more important than the north boundary. Since you're on the railroad tracks, it's not the historic boundary, but you know, maybe there's similar moves that could just be set it back a little bit, make it a little bit finer and a little more lightweight in the detail. Right. And I think we will be a lot better off for all the way around.
I agree.
I think it appears that the key issue is the appearance of the heaviness of the canopy structure. I do not have a problem with the location of the columns because of the mitigating circumstances regarding the structure and the wall and holding it up. And in many cases, when additions are being put onto historic homes, for example, that little setback deviation is only 6 or 8 inches. I mean, it's not a significant deviation. It's a deviation that defines the difference between here and there. And here, they have almost 2 feet from the edge, the outside edge of the perimeter wall where they're placing that column. I think because when it is removed, if it ever gets removed, it would not impair or damage anything related to the historic building. So the location of those columns don't bother me as much as I think the appropriateness of the sense of heaviness of that roof component. However, we never did get to see a rendition of what this looks like if you're coming north on 22nd Street, because the other end of the roof is completely open. So it's all we're being able to see here is what it looks like from looking southward and eastward. And I think the fact that the other end of the roof is open will help to mitigate that sense of heaviness on that roof. So if we can work with them to just lighten up that sense of the roof edge, I think, in my opinion, it meets the standard and is appropriate.
Okay. Yeah, I think it'd also be helpful to have a few more dimensions, like critical dimensions of what that overall profile is, and just kind of summarize that a little bit better, and setbacks off that line, so we can get a better understanding of that, and then some renderings. So.
And I think there might be a condition, and as this is when we, I have a condition I would like to add to our motion when the time comes, if the board agrees.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much ready for at that point right now. If there's conditions of, I think we want to see this again. I think the applicant needs to do a little bit more work and make some changes to work off the comments that we had, and if we want to stipulate any conditions for that.
So are you suggesting that we would do a preliminary approval? Or ask for a continuance?
Yeah. I think continuance would be a better way to go at this point in time, and we can, if the board is in agreement, generally speaking, we can make sure that's okay with the applicant.
Okay.
Good morning, Ron Vila. The path that this request could go is that you could give a final approval with conditions. You could give a preliminary approval and itemize the items that you want to see back. You could just outright continue it, or there's a denial as well. So I would talk to the applicants and see what their direction.
I think
It looks like we're, do we?
well,
have
our
to-
public hearing is still closed, so we're still,
Do we have to reopen the public hearing to hear from the attorney?
if we, yeah.
So motion to reopen the public hearing?
A second.
Well, do you guys want to make a motion first, or ask for?
No, I would like.
Yeah, ask for the-
Well, I mean, if it's
I would like
continuance,
to
it's
hear his
pretty,
comment.
there's no conditions to a continuance, right?
Well, the discussion's been heard.
Yeah,
What our points are. And I think in this one, I think continuance is the way to go on this one, because they can look at a number of different options, and we're not saying, okay, you gotta do this. If you do this, you gotta do this. There's a condition to do that. We stated our concerns, we let them go back with carte blanche. Maybe they wanna look at,
Yeah.
Mr. Dixon comes up with a miraculous, structural system that incorporates all our concerns or not. So
Yeah.
I think we're heading in a direction right now, and if we can start with the motion, we'll ask for,
But since we reopened the public hearing.
we haven't yet.
I'd like to.
We're having a discussion. There's a second on the motion, but I haven't took a vote
I
yet.
did, yeah.
Yeah. All right, you guys wanna open the public hearing? Okay. Motion to open the public hearing? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Jeff Shannon, Columbia Restaurant Group. Thanks for opening the public hearing. We would be, and we have spent lots of time vetting this project. We have lots of experience with these types of pavilions, these types of covers in a variety of units. We really, we believe in them. It's been a lot of trial and error, as you've heard from Mr. Steele and others. And we've come up with this idea that seems to work best for this structure and is the best we can do given the historic nature of it. So I would just suggest that we're willing to continue to vet issues. We're willing to talk about the color scheme. Maybe it's a lighter color for the underside of the roof. Maybe it's a lighter color for, I don't know what, but I know one of the big issues is visibility and the heaviness of this structure. We're happy to continue to talk about reducing the beam width to 8 inches. And so if we could get some sort of approval to move forward with conditions, we're certainly willing to talk about those conditions and work with the commission and staff to make sure those are all implemented. And that includes agreeing, frankly, never to enclose it, because that's certainly an important consideration, and an important consideration to us. We like the open air. We want the views. We want the views of Ybor City, particularly to all dimensions. So again, I just think that might be most helpful to the applicant today, to have some sort of recognition and approval of the hard work and trying to get this accomplished, and then agreeing to some set of conditions that we're happy to work with Mr. Vila and his staff to finalize.
Okay, so would you be acceptable with a continuance, or you're looking for a?
We would honestly request, in assembling this team, we would appreciate some sort of approval to move to the next step of just implementing this with conditions and working hard as a team, all of us, to try to finalize those, if Mr. Veal is willing to work with us.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We're going to go ahead and close the public hearing, and any further discussion or move for a motion?
I move to grant preliminary approval for the drawings and documents as presented to the public hearing in BLC. Oh, which one?
Approval with conditions.
Okay, pardon me.
No, preliminary.
Preliminary? Oh, okay.
BLC 25-00000058 for the property located at 2025 East 7th Avenue with the following conditions. That the applicant will...
Wrong address.
The property is located at 1607 North
Sorry about
22nd
that.
Street.
1607, property located at 1607 North 22nd Street, Tampa, Florida, with the following conditions. That the applicant will work to reduce the appearance of weight in the roof structure.
That's it? And anyone else have a condition that they would?
That the applicant work to reduce the fascia and header height of the canopy, that they work. That's
it.
And then that they what was it? I don't know, was it a promise or that they vow to never enclose the canopy as well? That's how do you word that?
So to,
Yeah.
just procedurally, Dana Crosby Collier, you're seconding the motion and asking the motion maker to amend the motion to include these additional conditions?
That's correct.
Thank
yes.
you.
So,
All right, so I think there's gotta be one more condition on there if we're gonna go this route. The column, they need to look at setting back the columns a little bit more, somehow. Or
They need to
minimizing
what?
those. Look at setting back the columns a little bit more somehow.
I know, okay.
All right, so the conditions
Or-
are, reduce the overall weight of the appearance of the structure, work at reducing the width of the fascia, making it thinner, and work at setting back the structure from the edge of the building.
And agree to no permit.
And agree to no permanent enclosure of the rooftop structure.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of said motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Preliminary approval, and we'll work on those details.
Now, I have a question about the process now. Since this is a preliminary approval, typically then it would be coming back for a final certificate of appropriateness?
That's what a preliminary approval grants. It was discussed today. You have a motion for preliminary approval. Our next public hearing is April 22nd. If they could turn around their drawings to adhere to the conditions that were placed on the preliminary approval by April 2nd, then we'll see them in April 22nd for the public hearing. So I'll work with their team to get them prepared to come forward as expeditiously as possible. But you will see it again.
Okay. Okay, we'll move on to item number 10, Ybor City Design Standards Update and Discussion. Response.
Good morning, Heather Bonds, Historic Preservation Specialist. We've prepared an update to our design standards revision. We're going to present where we're at today with these updates and include the standards to materials and how they apply to new construction. The purpose of the update is to continuously provide updates and trending historic preservation topics to keep the BLC informed on commonly reviewed projects, considerations, and challenges. Here are where we at in our statuses for the historic Ybor City District Design Standards. First, the reason why we need this revision is because it's been over 40 years since we adopted the original standards. And it's been over 20 years since we've last made a revision to the updates. So we are doing a complete overhaul of the standards to address new materials and provide specific directions to our applicants. The existing guidelines were created in 1986. They serve as a guide to rehabilitate existing structures and guide new construction. We are working hard to create a new set of modernized standards that will be codified and adopted to assist owners and developers in meeting their project goals in a historically sensitive manner, provide specific measurements of success, address modern topics, be reformatted for better organization, conform to ADA compliant fonts and equal accessibility, promote maintenance and encourage rehabilitation over new construction, and overall to create a user-friendly product. We are proposing 6 sections. I'm going to briefly go through the status of where we are in drafting these sections. The first is our introduction and general information. This is going to have some of our maps, describe our zoning districts, and provide a background to the Ybor City Historic District. Our draft is completed. However, it is on hold right now because zoning is currently redoing their zoning code. And so we're on hold just pending any sort of changes to the zoning code that may alter this section. Maintenance. In the current design guidelines, maintenance and rehabilitation are one section. We're breaking this out to really promote maintenance and give historic homeowners direction on how to maintain their historic homes so that they don't get to rehabilitation or even new construction. So let's promote maintenance because that's the key to historic preservation. That's true preservation, is maintaining your home or structure. Next is that rehabilitation section. Currently, and we're keeping this set up, it is broken into landmarks, residential, commercial, and industrial sectors. So we're going to keep our section of rehabilitation organized that way to address the different uses for individual structures. New construction, this is the one that we've we've completed, and it's the one we're doing the biggest overhaul on because the original draft or the original guidelines is only 4 pages. Ours is now about 58 pages. So we've really beefed up the new construction section because that is pretty much what you guys see a lot of. Setting and site components, that is everything else besides the historic resources within the districts and on a site. Those are your sidewalk cafes, your signs, your sidewalks, your driveways, everything else that composes a site. And we're currently completing that draft right now. And of course, we have references and resources. We're going to have all the spec sheets for the city site components, such as the 5 globe lights in there, even our tree grates. We're going to have the stylistic descriptions of all the different styles that you see in Ybor City and your typical glossary and other references. On to our part 4, new construction. As I mentioned, it's gone from 4 pages to 57 pages. It adds more context, some more visual examples. It clearly lists what's permissible and what's not permissible for our approaches. And we've added additional standards for buildable lots or vacant lots for infill constructions, form and styles. We address murals, rooftop additions, accessory structures, commercial parking lots, and modern equipment. These are the 25 topical standards that are being addressed in new construction. At our last update, we kind of went over what I call the big 5, which is your scale, height, massing, proportions, alignment, and setbacks. Those are kind of where we keep the context to our historic district. And we don't want to deviate from those areas. However, in historic preservation, one of the trends here at both the national level and the state level is to allow more flexibility in design standards and guidelines, which is something that we're approaching with ours, and we're wanting to weigh the BLC on where we can add more flexibility in our guidelines. And one area that we think that we can look at in avoiding changing or adding flexibility to things like scale and building height, which is what we want to maintain in our historic district, are building materials. Can we look at flexibility in the materials that we are finding in new construction? So with that, this is the draft of our building material section where we go over what's permissible and non-permissible. In new construction, there are materials that should be consistent with the original materials found within the district. Some materials we can perhaps decide on substitute materials, and then there are materials which are just not consistent with these standards and shall not be considered when the BLC reviews new construction for CAs. And we'd like to review that today. Overall, the big sentence that we have in this section is that the BLC will have final approval on those substitute materials. So we acknowledge that through time, there's new materials that are going to be introduced. We can't see the future. We don't know what kind of materials may be great substitute materials. We know things like vinyl are not, but in the future, maybe there are substitute materials that we can accept. Overall, though, materials proposed shall be similar in design and appearance to the historic materials found within the district. Vinyl and faux replicated materials are not permissible. Here are 2 new construction projects which successfully incorporated appropriate materials found within the district, such as brick, 5V crimp metal roofs, wood brackets, arched windows, wood windows, and wood siding and trim. That's basically what we're looking for in new construction. Here's Preservation Brief 16, which addresses the substitute materials on historic building exteriors, and comments from the national, the standards of rehabilitation, which were recently updated, and how they address these substitute materials. They state, while in the use of matching materials is always preferred, the standards have purposely been updated to allow for the use of substitute materials in new construction. They also provide additional flexibility in the treatment of secondary, less distinctive features that are less important in defining the historic character of the property. The standards for rehabilitation recognize that flexibility is appropriate to facilitate a compatible use for the property while preserving those portions of or features which convey its historical, cultural, or architectural values. With the national trend allowing for consideration of substitute materials, we too are engaging in the conversation on what is appropriate and what do we consider those secondary, less distinctive features that would not alter the historic integrity of the district. So these are the areas that we thought that we could discuss for materiality. And that is fences, siding, roofing, and windows. That's what we see the most of when we're reviewing materials. Fences, wood is the traditional material for fences in Ybor. We have picket, board on board, and box style fencing, which are all approved fences. Of course, we encourage wood fencing when people come in for their fencing options. There's also metal fences, which are traditional to Ybor City. One area that gets proposed and we deny is the vinyl, which is not approved or appropriate. The shine on vinyl fences and the solid panels just does not offer the consistency with the historic materials found within the district. New chain link fences are also prohibited. We have chain link fences throughout the district that have been existing. We do not ask that they remove them, but if they come down, they stay down, basically. A new material, which is composite fences, have recently been proposed. As opposed to vinyl, these fences provide a wood-like finish with differing grading patterns and also come as planks to provide the dimension of a true wood fence. The consideration for this style is that fences are considered a secondary element or a site component. Therefore, providing alternative materials to traditional materials could be advantageous in certain situations. Again, the standards for rehabilitation require that replacement of distinctive features match the old in physical and visual properties. Where we do not feel vinyl meets this criteria, this composite wood fence potentially meets those standards as it does match the physical and visual properties. Siding is another area which is a large contributor to the historic fabric for the amount of material that makes up a structure. Unlike roofs, which have a lifespan of 15 to 30 years, are expected to be replaced regularly throughout a structure's lifetime, siding can be preserved and maintained and last for much longer periods, if not indefinitely with proper maintenance. Therefore, we maintain that wood siding shall remain on historic structures. On new construction, however, alternatives to wood siding have been proposed. That cement board siding is an alternative material that has been acceptable for new construction and additions, though not permitted as an alternative material on contributing structures. The smooth side of cement board siding replicates the profiles and appears to meet the standards of historic wood siding. Vinyl siding would not be an appropriate or acceptable replacement to wood siding. Brick is also one of the most character-defining exterior siding materials in the district, with some of Ybor's oldest buildings retaining its brick facades. Brick is often used in larger buildings for new construction, as seen here. These are all new construction buildings that are using real brick. Also for offices, warehouses, and living units. There are very few substitute materials that match the appearance, physical properties, and related attributes of true brick. During reviews for new construction, any substitute materials for true brick should be scrutinized to ensure that the proposed material is an appropriate substitute. A brick veneer fails to offer the dimensions and variety of true brick and should be avoided. Also, there is a variety to the historic brick found in Ybor City, from red brick to blonde brick. However, modernistic colors such as whitewash, gray, or black brick should be avoided. Stuccoed brick should be avoided on the main body of a structure, as it has not been proven to be successful for long term, but could be used as appropriate for foundation, piers, or footings. On to roofing. Corrugated pressed metal shingles and 5E crimped are the traditional metal roofs in Ybor City. Also traditional are shingle roofs. Standing seam is the prominent style in the industrial sector and for larger buildings. These metal profiles help define the character of the building and the style and type of roofing material, which should be referenced on new construction, as 5E crimped pressed metal panels or corrugated metal may be appropriate for residential new construction, and standing seam for commercial or larger structures, as seen here on these new construction examples. The residential, single family, and multifamily, both utilizing the 5E crimped, and the central Ybor larger building has the standing seam. Window materials. Historically, wood is the material used for window. We have encouraged the preservation of wood windows that are in disrepair. However, in new construction, wood-cladded aluminum windows have been an appropriate option. Whereas the window on the left, which has grids between the glass and no inset, this would not be considered, as it does not maintain the historic profile of a true wood window. The other two are cladded windows and are inset properly and have dimensional simulated divided light grids. And those would be acceptable for new construction, even though they are not traditional wood windows. It's hard to discern if these are true windows or cladded windows based on meeting the inset and installation of these windows. In new construction, it's important for windows to reference the historic patterns, including the insets, trim profiles, wood proportions, sizes, and typical fenestration pattern. This includes having a traditional transparency and not large expanses of blank exterior walls and too many window sizes. Also, window installation. This is an example that we actually caught in our inspections. You'll notice the windows on the top floor are flush and not properly inset. Our inspector came out and stopped this project, and they're having to correct the issue here. But we see this with installation a lot. We have to send our inspectors out to make sure things are being installed correctly, and that could start with the way the windows are installed. So one of the areas we've also seen in new construction, it's called SIPS construction. It's a new construction method that has been used in the district as opposed to the traditional wood framing method. This method of installation allows for the appropriate window insets, as you can see in this SIPS construction here. In summary, the new construction standards encourage successful integration of new construction into the historic district. Our goal is not to discourage new designs or modern needs, but to ensure the overall compatibility and appropriateness for the Ybor City Historic District. With that, we'd like to open it up if the BLC has an opportunity or would like to weigh in on materiality in new construction.
I noticed in the roofing section there, you don't, unless you just didn't bring it up today, but you don't address barrel tile roofs. Is that because there are none that exist in Ybor City and you wouldn't normally have that here?
It's what we see less of. We wanted to address what we see the most of, which are the metal roofs. The barrel tile roof on new construction, we can discuss the materials, but we don't see that many replacements in Ybor City.
But if it's not in the guidelines from the get-go, then there's nothing to put your finger on to say, yes, you can, or no, you can't.
It is going to be addressed in the guidelines. I was just using different material options. There's lots of options with barrel tile roofs. It is addressed in materials as saying that you need to reference what is within the district, and barrel tile roofs are referenced in the district. So that's the main standard for materials, is that it needs to be referenced from the historical context in the district. You have to pull from the historic palette that's within the district. And so if you can reference it, you may use it.
But is it stated that way in the revision of these guidelines so that there's some tooth to being able to allow a person to do something or not?
It is stated to reference the historic palette. Maybe we don't call out barrel tile specifically, but you do need to reference the historic resources in the district.
Seems like it's a tricky area if you're not going to include it. The other thing I would suggest that you add to your list of sections are trim boards. You know, there's trim boards are everywhere, at the window frames, at the door frames, the barge boards, and that doesn't seem to be in your table of contents. And it seems like that would be something that you might want to add into your trim boards.
We do have trim and detail listed.
Okay.
It is. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. And your discussion on faux materials, a lot of times FIPON has been used in the past in lieu of as a bracket, or because it looks exactly like, and in new construction, I could see not maybe permitting that in a restoration, but in new construction, it seems like those kinds of materials would be acceptable because there is no visual distinction between it and a piece of wood. And in new construction, you're not dealing with the same picayune criteria that we would be dealing with. And I think it needs to be allowable.
I can work on some wordsmithing, definitely. In that section, we were trying to avoid things like fake brick. Again, we have that section that says the BLC has final review of materials. So if somebody brought a material in front of you, you are the authority on whether or not it's appropriate in the end.
Right. I just think for the property owner and the builder and the architect, it's important for them to understand at the get-go that these options are available and not wait until they bring something here, which is practically their last step. It just seems it would be more fair to allow an option of that nature in new construction.
And I agree, and this is why we were bringing this section forward, because we want to weigh what kind of flexibility we can offer in the standards. Yeah. So I can go back and revisit that.
And I think a lot of times staff already kind of bird dogs that early on in the process too, before it comes to us as well. And like the barrel tile, I think that kind of falls under the press tile category, which is prevalent and mentioned in the district. So I think it's kind of covered there. It seems like always the hot button item is always vinyl. For the windows and stuff, you know, and I think this board has been a little bit more lenient on some of that stuff in recent years. You know, I think it's on a case-by-case basis. It's based on where it is in the district and how prevalent it is. And, you know, I don't think we really get into the money conversation all the time, but it's certainly a prevalent product that's been around. And I think that's gonna, you're not taking a particular, you mentioned it's not a allowable material, but sometimes we do allow it. Does that need to be clarified?
I think we're trying to avoid vinyl in Ybor City.
Sure.
It is a national historic district, and I think anywhere else with all of our other districts, this is where we want to be the strictest.
Sure.
So I think we can further discuss vinyl windows, but I think our standards are trying to avoid that and maybe allow the cladded window instead for new construction.
Yeah, absolutely.
To give them an option.
And, you know, I like the composite board being mentioned as a substitute material for fences. That always seems to be another issue with the vinyl.
I know.
And the composites.
But you know, other districts allow those vinyl fences. So and you know, if you look at the condition of the wood fences, I mean, the composite material is a step in the right direction, but those wood fences look absolutely horrible. I mean, they fall apart within a couple of years. Nobody paints them or seals them. I think if you're going to put wood in or you're going to mandate a wood fence in lieu of an alternative material, then I think you need to mandate sealing it as well, because it's
And maintenance.
they're maintenance. I mean, they're ugly as all get out.
I'll agree with you, and that's why we get that argument quite a bit, that they don't want the wood fence because it does not hold up like the vinyl fence. So we don't want to allow the vinyl fence, but we do want to offer another option to people.
Yeah. And the composite, I think your point is the composite are dimensionally stable, you know, so it's more replicating what a wood product would be here, so.
Yeah, right.
Less maintenance. People are lazy, you know. It's the nature to maintain that all. What do you need from us today?
This was just to provide you an update, just to let you know where our standards are headed, and just wanted to let you guys know what the trends are that we're seeing at the national level. I've been attending several workshops. They've been doing a lot of webinars, and adding more flexibility to municipal guidelines is what we're seeing in the trend. So we wanted to let you know that that's something that we're weighing right now. So when you get the final product, you kind of know where we're headed.
What is the timeline for the final product? You know, what's the target date for, I know it has to go through HPC and get approved before we enact it.
We're trying to get the final draft done by the end of this year. We have all 6 sections started. We have several finished. Like I said, we're waiting for the zoning code to see if that is going to bring on any changes for our introduction. But we're working hard to get these in front of you as soon as possible.
Are you foreseeing any changes in zoning in the district?
Yes,
Or-
yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
We're rewriting the whole zoning.
Comp plan? Or future land use and zoning?
So one thing I am avoiding in writing these standards is citing specific code sections, just because everything's getting renumbered and stuff, and who knows if this is gonna get all revised again in 10 years, and we'd hate to redo our standards. So I am avoiding citing specific code. Instead, I'm just using code, and then people can refer to the municipal code.
Absolutely. Okay, great. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
That was a great presentation. I think we need to reevaluate, go ahead, Dana.
Good morning, Dana Crosby Collier with the City Attorney's Office. On the preliminary approval, the motion failed to state a date to which you will continue the item or hear the item again. So what we need to do is what's called a motion to reconsider, and it's a 2-step process. The first step is to do the motion to reconsider and take a vote. We're going to do a motion to reconsider the motion regarding preliminary approval and take your vote. And then when you do come back to the motion to grant preliminary approval, it'll be worded exactly the way you worded it before. only adding that you will continue this with the following conditions, yada, 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 to the April 22nd, 2025 public hearing at 9 a.m. So first motion will be a motion to reconsider. Anyone can make it since your motion was unanimously approved.
Motion to reconsider?
Second.
All in favor of motion to reconsider, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Okay, now you move to your motion to grant preliminary approval. And it's the top one on your motion track, sample motion. You had 4 conditions. You'll want to include all 4 of the conditions. And then to the April 22nd, 2025 public hearing date at 9 a.m.
Can we just amend the motion to add the date?
Well, you've already done the motion. So just redo the motion.
It's just restating it in this exact same way as it was originally stated is tricky.
Right.
We just forgot that last, yeah.
Okay.
All right, I move to grant preliminary approval for the drawings and documents as presented at the Barrio Latino hearing, public hearing.
Right here.
Thank you. For the property located at 160.
Well, you gotta mention the case, you gotta mention the case number.
Oh, right.
Case number.
As presented at the public hearing in BLC 25-000058 for the property located at 1607 North 22nd Street with the following conditions. That the overall weight appearance of the structure be considered, the fascia reduced in thickness, except the setback, but the applicant consider or work with setback and no permanent enclosures. To the April 22nd hearing at 9 a.m.
Second.
A second.
Okay. All in favor of said motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Yep. And before we do that, it looks like we have a new staff member here. Do we need to do a quick introduction? Is this staff?
Good morning. Maya Hurwitz from the City Attorney's Office has joined us this morning to observe the BLC's public hearing and the process. She's attending the ARC meetings as well and also the VRB. So she's getting a little experience in board council work.
Great. Well, welcome to our meeting. Sorry we didn't get to recognize you earlier. And welcome to our meeting, and we had an exciting one for you. Okay, and we have a motion to receive and file, submitted documents, and submittals, exhibits.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Seeing no more business before us, we will be adjourned, and we'll see you April 22nd. Thank you all.
Perfect.